Ladies and gentlemen, I am SidAlpha, and at long last, finally, I will be discussing Matt Norman and Police 1013. This has been a story that has contained within it a startling amount of insanity, and as such, I've actually been reluctant to go through it all just because of the sheer investment of time that is required, coupled with the fact that I do not personally feel that either Matt Norman or Police 1013 are deserving of that much of investment from me. However, towards the end of my last video, I did say the following. So as I said, I will be watching and I will be waiting. An award in one hand and a scythe in the other, as will a great many other people. Hopefully, I get to give away the award. Well, it would seem that as a result of Matt Norman's recent actions, it will be time for me to don the Reaper's robe and scythe. Recently, Matt Norman called out both BigfryTV and myself by name in a now deleted video claiming that he and I, mostly Big Fry, were the two people that were responsible for the announcement that he was shutting down development, only to, a few days later, change his mind in a grand exhibition of insanity. Now, I have no idea how long this video is going to be. My guess is it will not be short in nature, but a recounting of events will be required to gain full context of the lies and projections that Matt Norman has been employing. I'd recorded two videos discussing Matt Norman and Police 1013 in the past, and before we get into Matt Norman's accusations, which thankfully I retained an offline copy of his video before he took it down, I think it is important to revisit the history I've had with Matt Norman. Normally here I would say that, as always, any publicly available material would be available in the description down below, but unfortunately there are so many links involved that the 5,000 character limit that we have in the discussion area is not enough for me to be able to do that, so unfortunately I won't be able to itemize all of the links for you guys. However, I will include links to DueRag and BigfryTV's videos down in the description, and I suggest you go and take a look at those, as they will contain information that will not be in this video. So let's start with the information that was contained within my original video. The video footage currently on your screen is from Police 1013, in particular from one of the developer updates that was posted by Matt Norman to showcase supposed progress within the game. The game's website, Project Blue Line, had, at the time I had recorded the initial video, which was in April 3rd of this year, had raised a little over $124,000, exceeding its stated goal of $100,000. A development for Police 1013 started, according to the timeline, in 2014. From 2014 through 2017, there was apparent work being done on the game, plans being laid, and talk with investors supposedly happening behind the scenes. In 2017, it would appear that these supposed investors backed out before any final agreements were made. In addition to that, from 2015 on, the first signs of troubled waters appeared that numerous developers would come and go, leaving the project for various reasons. In 2018, Matt Norman was diagnosed as having a brain tumor, which, in spite of all the shade Matt Norman has been publicly throwing my way, I'm very glad to report that the tumor was successfully removed, and Matt Norman was one of the lucky few to make a full recovery. Through the course of the past 5 years, as of my initial Dirty Devs video, it appears that actually very little had been accomplished with the game. This was due to the fact that in 2016, any existing development on the game was completely scrapped, and the footage on your screen was from a series of pre-purchased assets. The development timeline painted a false picture of actual development taking place, whereas the vast majority of the so-called work being done was merely introducing new Unreal Engine asset packs to the game, cobbling things together to make it look like development was being done where little to no development was actually taking place. The Reddit user Unhappy Business had posted a great deal of information regarding this, even going so far as to compile a list of the assets used, which included, but was by no means limited to, the Urban City Update Pack, the Small Office Prop Pack, the Movement Animset Pro, the Character Integration Pack, the Procedural Landscape Ecosystem Pack, and then multiple Turbo Squid assets that included the Payphone, Destructible Road Signs, the Desert Town Asset Pack, the Urban City Asset Pack, the Modular Building Set, the QA Modular Parking Kit, the Indoor Shooting Range, the Modular Prison Interior Pack, and the list goes on and on and on. Before my first video, BigfryTV had already released 2 videos discussing Police 1013, and within those videos, he showcased some side-by-side comparisons of the asset packs and what was contained within the game. Along with that was a now deleted announcement post Matt Norman had made in his Discord that started off innocuous enough with promising to answer questions on various topics in the first 5 segments, which might have provided some valuable information. However, he quickly went off the rails, starting with number 6, the scam concept, and continuing on with trolls, conspiracy, and the ongoing push to drive indie development into the ground, keyboard warriors, and YouTube influencers and their role in hurting the indie gaming community. Now, in that announcement, Matt Norman also linked to a poll that asked if his backers would rather prefer something completely hyperbolic and ridiculous, or if they would rather he just keep on keeping on with what he was doing, which was basically nothing at all. From all of this, you would think there would be enough to unpack on this topic, but that was merely the tip of the iceberg, as I discovered, thanks to the help of many other people, that Matt Norman had both a habit and reputation for seeking out other developers within the police simulation indie market, conduct a fair amount of harassment and leverage a decent amount of verbal abuse their way, then threaten defamation lawsuits against anyone and everyone that dared to talk back or to criticize him, his game, or his behavior in any way. This video is from the YouTuber DueRag, who himself has done a rather decent job in recent days of covering the situation. I'll go ahead and toss a link to his videos on the topic in the description down below if you'd like to go give him a watch. He definitely earned it. That video was an interview with Brian Watts, who had at that time labeled himself as the lead writer, casting director, and voice actor for the video game's special response team. Now, in the comments section of that video, Matt Norman posted a lengthy comment engaging in several character attacks against Brian Watts, making accusations of poaching a community moderator, and preemptively threatens to sue Watts for defamation. The LSPDFRR.com forums stated that Matt Norman responded to people questioning the legitimacy of the game with legal action. In a now deleted discussion thread from the also recently deleted Steam Greenlight page for Police 1013, Matt Norman threatened to anyone claiming to be the original owners of any of the pre-bought assets that he would take legal action against them and that he would report them to Steam management to get them banned, end quote, amongst other things. Then there is this Facebook post where Matt Norman threatens a former community moderator with a defamation lawsuit. And another Facebook threat where Matt Norman sought out and attempted to start trouble with Palm Beach Games, accusing them of not having any original assets within their game, the whole while being that Matt Norman's game itself contained no original assets. Matt Norman claimed in that thread that nothing within that developer update was purchased and that it was all made in-house, which is a blatant and already proven lie. He then called the person he started an argument with a child before washing his hands of the argument he himself started, which is an exceptionally common theme with Matt Norman. Then there was another thread where Matt Norman accused Visionary Studios of stealing Grand Theft Auto 5 assets and then threatens to have their YouTube and Facebook channels taken down for harassment, all over a single YouTube comment, by the way, and then file a defamation lawsuit against them. Visionary Studios responded by sending a screenshot of the YouTube comment in question where it appears they are defending themselves against Matt Norman's continued harassment against them. Now, in that thread, Visionary Studios stated, quote, "I've been in contact with almost all police/emergency sims and I've seen you personally harass all." A very one-sided argument ensued until Visionary Studios stated that if Matt Norman persisted, they would reveal how he was treating other developers, which gave Matt Norman a sense of victory, thinking that he would now be able to sue them for blackmail, showing a complete ignorance as to what blackmail actually is, before continuing on to hurl a large number of false allegations at Visionary Studios. And then the last bit in that video was some screenshots sent to me by BigfryTV in which Matt Norman claimed that BigfryTV had attacked him and tried to get BigFry to take the video down. In that video, it is worth noting that Matt Norman spent a great deal of time responding to nearly every single comment that was posted. And that was all the information that just came from my first video on this topic. Of course, there were some very clear developments since then, and I want to make sure to point out a few things, so let's see what happened after the Dirty Devs video went live. Well, we do have one screenshot where Matt Norman stated that he would not be replying to my Dirty Devs video and that the video was slander. However, a couple of hours before that, he did comment on the video before he himself deleted that comment, and I proceeded to mock him in the process before giving Matt Norman a little hard truth. However, after that, Matt Norman apologized. Not only did he apologize to me in Discord DMs, he apologized publicly where he did acknowledge his bad behavior, but at the same time seemed incapable of refraining from attempting to take little jabs with statements like his not bothering to point out where I was wrong. Regardless, he did apologize to the developers he had harassed and threatened with defamation lawsuits. It seemed to be a sincere and heartfelt, if a bit flawed, apology. However, given Matt Norman's actions, attitudes, and behaviors, I pointed out that I had seen Matt Norman's personality type many times in the past, and that I was certain that Matt Norman did believe 100% in what he was saying when he was writing it, but I pointed out that no normal person is capable of such a radical shift in outlook and mentality overnight, at least none that will stick permanently. Now, you cannot merely flip a switch and undo many years of terrible behavior and learned mannerisms. It just doesn't work that way. In that video, I explained in great detail how, in spite of my severe misgivings, I hoped very strongly for a redemption story. That Matt Norman would make good on his promise and deliver the game that his backers have been waiting 5 long years for. I also hoped to see this change in his personality because of his health and his family. He is a husband and a father after all, and I fervently hoped he would be there for them for a long time to come. And then I showed a brief snip of the conversation I had with Matt Norman in Discord DMs, in which I said the following: I'm going to let you in on a little secret. People are going to be angry, and they're not going to behave in a civilized manner over this. The reason why they're angry, most of them, is because they want the project to be successful. They want you to make the game they're interested in playing. They see this. They see your actions as an impediment to that end. So show them that you are capable of moving forward, moving upward, and creating the game that they want to play. That is how you succeed, and that is how all of the people that donated over $100,000 to you also succeed. Work hard, dig deep, accept criticism, and do everything you need to do to instill trust in both you and your project again. If that means being a bit more lenient with your rules, then so be it, because right now, shutting people out in that manner is only going to make things worse. Now, I actually did some really good speechifying in that video, and if you haven't watched it, I highly recommend it. I'm actually pretty proud of myself over that one. But going alongside that, I wanted to discuss a bit more of the Discord conversation I had with Matt Norman, because in light of these recent accusations made by Matt Norman, I want you all to see how that conversation left off. Now, I'd not noticed until a few weeks ago, but after our conversations at some point in time, Matt Norman had apparently blocked me, so I do not have the capacity to speak with the man through that avenue last time I checked, although he recently sent me an email begging me not to make this video that I'll absolutely discuss here at some point, probably closer to the end of the video. After that last statement about making things worse, Matt Norman thanked me for the insights and for taking the time, in which I said something that I very much meant, and it is a sentiment I always try to hold on to. On April 5th, I said, "Just remember that I'm not some YouTube boogeyman that is out to get you." Yes, I pointed out your actions and behavior in an extremely negative light because they were extremely negative in nature. But if a lesson can be learned, and you stick to what you said in your statement, then the end result will be a more positive and more collaborative relationship with other developers, a more positive and more pro-consumer stance with your customers, and a better game that people will be able to enjoy playing and that hopefully you'll be able to take some pride in. That is what I hope for. Whether it will happen or not, well, that's up to you. And yeah, that's just the recap. Good Lord. Still, I did want a recounting of Matt Norman's history of harassing others, of making defamation lawsuit threats, and of his apology that was apparently worth less than the cost of electricity to light the pixels on the monitor for a millisecond. I also want it very clear and on the record that I left off in my second video with a message of cautious hopefulness, and my interactions as a result of those videos with Matt Norman appeared to be both cordial and well received. Had I known what would occur since then, I wouldn't have bothered. Since then, I'd been content to ignore Matt Norman, hoping he would make good on his promises and make a turnaround, and I'd be able to come back in a year's time, or maybe 2 years, and be able to bring to everyone some good news. However, as was later discovered, Matt Norman only changed his tune for an extremely short period of time before reverting to the same vitriolic and nasty individual that he was before. As it turns out, in June of this year, Matt Norman stated, quote, "SidAlpha had some honest things to say, and he was also a man about things, so I took that on the chin and did something about that. BigFry has continued to lie to anyone that will listen." And I say that because Matt Norman himself continued to lie, claiming credit for other people's work, and has been reported by dozens of people that had banned others for so much as asking questions about the game in a negative light. Then in late July, one of Matt Norman's former PR people turned developers sent this screenshot to both BigfryTV and myself. In it, it shows an announcement in the private developers channel that Sam and Ricky, the two experienced developers that Matt had gotten to join the team, stated that they would be leaving due to Matt Norman. In it, they say, "This is simply due to the current company image on social platforms not conforming to the public image that we want to project as developers, and this makes us uncomfortable. We have tried to resolve this internally, but at this point, this no longer seems to be an option." Now, that developer that forwarded the screenshots also has been accused by Matt Norman for violating NDA, except it is asserted by that developer that a non-disclosure agreement was never signed, and Matt Norman never verified or even asked if it had. The developer stated the following: "Basically, the reason I left is because me and the dev team he hired was because we no longer wanted our names connected to someone who can't control himself on social media, and this was dragging our good name down. Now, I do realize that leaking stuff from a company is not good for my name either." After Matt did his public apologies, he basically did not stop banning and censoring people on Discord, even though this was against wishes from his team, including his dev and PR team. Voxfire, the developer, wanted to make videos and make updates for our community, and this got discussed multiple times with the senior people in the team. Basically, Matt never delivered his stuff and was mostly away. There were days and weeks that Matt did not even speak to me or tribally ignored things being said to him in the community management channels, closed channels on Discord. When it comes to his managing his company, he never actually verified if people signed NDAs or do any basic employee retention you would expect from someone leading a company. Obviously, he thinks I am the worst kind of person for leaking shit, but this only happens because of his poor leadership and the fact he just had to insult everyone on social media and his anger issues. And hopefully the audio doesn't sound too different for you all right here. I'm actually having to go back through and record an additional segment that I almost forgot about, such as the way of things when so much information is needing to be gone through. But as a result of these developers leaving, and this developer in particular allegedly violating a non-disclosure agreement he had never even signed, Matt Norman literally doxed his former developers by releasing a statement on his website and had disclosed their full first and last names, something which, in the case of this person, was not something that they wanted to happen, which Matt Norman did multiple times within that announcement. Now, back to the already recorded video. To that end, here's one backer of Project Blue Line, the funding website for Police 1013, who got banned and blocked by Matt Norman. They say, "I supported this game and backed it, but when I said I was worried after the first video by BigFry and SidAlpha, and that I already had been burned and let down by Identity, which I said was on their Discord, I got banned. When I asked to be unbanned on the Facebook page and told them I was sorry and that I had backed them on Project Blue Line, guess what happened? Matt himself got in contact, asked for my backer ID, and then blocked me from commenting on the Police 1013 Facebook page. I was disgusted." And the screenshot also shows two other backers of the game expressing very similar sentiments of being disenfranchised. Then, about 10 or so days ago, depending on when I managed to finish recording this, Matt Norman posted a video that has since been deleted, because of course it has, announcing that Police 1013 was officially cancelled, and in it, he directly blames both BigfryTV and myself for the game's failure. Well, let's hear Matt Norman's own words on this. Now, in this audio clip, Matt Norman does not name myself or BigfryTV specifically, but it is 2 minutes after he calls us both out directly. Now, in this segment, I'll want to go through the main points of contention Matt Norman appears to have with content creators in general.
If you want to place blame, then place it on social influencers who make ad revenue off people's livelihoods, who shit on independent creatives who are doing their best to make something new. They are the people stealing money from kids, asking you to like and subscribe or buy products they sell at the start or end of their video. They are the ones making money off the hype and vile spew of their content, yet they're not being held accountable. Why? Because go against them and you're either deleted, they'll claim you're not, or subject to ridicule for standing against them. If you want examples, just watch their comments when someone sticks up for the independent developer.
Now, in that 40-second segment, there's a ton to unpack, which is a prevalent issue throughout his 15-minute-long self-pity video, but several specific claims and accusations are made here. First, Matt Norman labels earning ad revenue as a bad thing. You see, Matt Norman seems to be under the impression that we make massive amounts of money on ad revenue, which is purely not the case. And I'll do what BigFry has already done in his videos, and I'm going to show you all the analytics behind the two Police 1013 videos I had produced on my channel. The first video, titled Dirty Devs Police 1013 Defamation Lawsuit Threats and Developer Harassment, which, given what we've already covered during the recap segment of this video, I think we can all agree is an accurate summation. Now, that video, in its lifetime from original post date to the time I recorded this segment of audio, which is August 16th, has received a total of 37,639 views, and from that I earned the titanic sum of $60.89. And bear in mind, that's not just ad revenue, that's YouTube Red views as well. Now, let's take a look at the follow-up video. You know, the one where I remained cautiously optimistic and was immediately following the what appeared to be a positive and productive conversation with Matt Norman. Now, that video is entitled Dirty Devs Police 1013 Developer Apology and Moving Forward. Now, that video in its lifetime garnered 26,164 views and earned a total of $41.23. Combine those two videos together, and I earned a grand total of $102.12, and the total amount of time invested in discussions, gathering information, recording, editing, and then subsequent viewer engagement, approximately 14 hours of work, which places my effort on these videos at roughly $7.25 per hour, which is below minimum wage where I currently reside. That's not exactly a stupendous amount of money to be earned there, so while Matt Norman looks down his nose at anyone that would earn the equivalent of less than minimum wage for their efforts, it's not exactly an amount that would be conducive to preying on others in a vampiric and sadistic fashion as he so obviously implies. The next point that Matt Norman accuses us of is that all we ever do is, quote, shit on creatives, which again clearly flies in the face of demonstrable evidence contained within my own two videos on this topic. The second of which was not critical of Matt Norman, quite the opposite in fact. I made sure to not merely let sleeping dogs lie, I made sure to update my viewers that Matt Norman had both apologized and promised to do better, and that while I was extremely skeptical, I did indeed hope for a positive outcome. One who does nothing but shit on creatives wouldn't even bother going the extra mile, wouldn't bother laying aside his own skepticism, wouldn't even bother having a lengthy offline conversation to do my best to provide helpful advice and insight. I would have simply moved on to the next likely victim and be done with it, happy with the chaos I left in my wake. Except I didn't do that. I left things on a hopeful note and promised that I would revisit the topic either way. Well, this is me revisiting the topic, and I'm not here to present my viewers words of a happy outcome. I'm not here to report that a leopard changed its spots. I'm not here to at least say, at least he made an honest go of it. No, I'm here with a very unhappy duty to report yet again on a supposed games developer that promised to begin treating others within his industry with a modicum of respect and to deliver a game that he was supposedly passionate about creating ended up being a complete and utter sleazeball on par with Digital Homicide and Andrew Watt. Matt Norman also claimed in that video that myself and BigfryTV, or rather all content creators, or at least the ones he doesn't like, are apparently stealing money from kids via Patreon or Ko-Fi or Ko-Fi or whatever, and by selling merchandise. Now, when we remind people they can donate to us on those sites, at least in my case, there's no paywalled content. They are choosing to support financially content that is already being created on a regular, or semi-regular due to the day job sometimes, occasion. That is a far cry from raising over $120,000 for a video game over the course of 5 years and then only having Unreal Store asset packs to show for it. Also, Matt Norman talked about our use of merchandise as well with a hefty amount of scorn. Meanwhile, Matt Norman sold multiple lines of merchandise on Zazzle.com that included, but most certainly was not limited to, t-shirts and even a baby onesie. That is the epitome of hypocritical and, while it is very in keeping with Matt Norman's personality of late, is still extremely disgusting to see. Now, the next point in that little 40-second tirade was that neither BigfryTV nor myself are apparently being held accountable, which again shows a complete lack of awareness as to how all of this works. Our viewers keep us accountable. They keep us accountable through subscribing or unsubscribing. They hold us accountable through likes and dislikes. They hold us accountable through comments on our videos. This is something that Matt Norman, just like Andrew Watt and Digital Homicide before them, completely fails to comprehend. His accusations that we are not being held accountable implies that we lie, that we engage in misinformation, that we engage in direct deception of our viewers in order to get rage views, because that is the neat little picture he's created within his own little mind in order to continue to fuel this self-delusional state in which he is the victim of the big bad YouTubers that are out to get him, and we are nothing but pure evil while he's a complete innocent. But that's not how this works. That's not how the world works on YouTube. What I do, what BigfryTV does, involves an extreme amount of trust from our viewers. Because we relay industry information, because we critique both games and the actions of this industry, that is predicated on a presumption that we are being honest and truthful because we are relaying information. It is a requirement that we are relaying information without withholding data for some form of personal bias. And if we were to violate that trust, if we were to lie and to deceive our viewers, then frankly, we would not have channels for very long at all. Especially with many of my viewers. There are many people that follow my videos with a fair amount of regularity that very much disagree with many of my opinions, but they still come for the information because that is still of value to them. Are we expected to believe that those people, if no one else, would not hold my feet to the fire if that information turned out to be fabricated by me? What would happen to my channel if I lied to people and was found out? That trust, that faith that is required would evaporate completely, and such an action would be ultimately self-defeating. To think that I would risk destroying my channel that I spent 4 years building over what would equate to precisely $102.12 would be either world-shatteringly stupid on my part or completely insane on the part of the accuser. Now, frankly, Mr. Norman, there's no way in hell that you would be important enough for me to risk telling a lie and being found out. No accountability? Quite the opposite, in fact. No, we are held to a much higher standard than many indie developers, much higher standard than most other YouTubers on this platform, because our viewers know full well the quality of content we are capable of, and when we fall short on that, trust me, we know. And I've put my own foot in my mouth often enough to see the impact on views, the impact on ad revenue, what little there is, the impact on donation amounts, and even the impact on subscribers. And that's over holding an opinion that's not shared by others. To lie? That would be apocalyptic for a channel like mine. And then his last point there, claiming we delete comments and then states that we will say we don't because of course we don't. In the case of Matt Norman, quite the opposite is true, in fact. Typically, as is the case with him and many other dirty devs, it is a mad scramble to screenshot their comments and responses before they themselves delete them. The comments Matt Norman posted on my first video were deleted by him, and I'm glad that I did screen capture them. I don't delete comments that are critical of me and what was said within the video. That is a general rule. The only exceptions are when someone resorts to name-calling and the like, or short comments that are literally, fuck you, and other such short and utterly worthless comments. But no, trust me, Matt, we don't delete your comments. We want those comments to stay exactly where they are for as many people as possible to see. Now, as I said, the entire 15-minute video serves a couple of purposes, and I could spend more than likely an entire hour breaking down the video and tearing it apart, but to be honest, the tediousness of the prospect is extremely daunting, and I have no desire to engage in that in-depth of a dissertation on the diseased mind of Matt Norman. Before that video was deleted by Matt Norman, he had actually updated the description on that video to the following, and yes, I will read this out in its entirety, but I'm going to interject at some points, so I'll highlight the segments being discussed. Due to the ongoing hate campaign by BigfryTV on YouTube and the constant threats towards me and my family by overly eager fans of Big Fry's channel, I am at the point where even if I did have the energy to complete this game, he has done so much damage to our good name that any release strategy would be hard to get past. The negotiations that were going so well with an external publisher/investor was called off because of the ongoing abuse from Big Fry and his fans. In other words, because of the campaign against us, the investors chose not to invest in the project, therefore leaving us without that opportunity. Now, the game did have a $100,000 crowdfunding goal, which was exceeded to the tune of over $20,000 above what was stated as being needed. With that funding level, no one is expecting a grand masterpiece, but there should be no need to rely upon investors. If Matt Norman was on the level with expenditures and the like, then there should have not been any need for additional funds. And this really speaks to what I believe to be the inept nature of the game's development up to this point. Matt had a vision, and he thought he knew what it would cost to create, but he was either being disingenuous with what that money was actually going towards, or he had no idea what it would actually take to create the game. And if you have no idea what it will take to create the game you're proposing, then there is an exceptionally high likelihood the game will never be created. This concept that it was all the fault of Big Fry and his fans is nothing more than shifting the blame and refusing to accept responsibility, something that is one of the few things that Matt Norman actually is good at doing. Now, he continues, "This has forced me to close down all operations as I just can't see a viable future in the game's success with all the hate. As most of you are aware, our site was DDoSed with the help of one of Big Fry's community members, which again showcased the personal attacks we were putting up with. This ongoing abuse is just too much and shouldn't be tolerated by anyone. Big Fry has said that he has no responsibility for what his fans do, but I believe he does. No, he most certainly is not responsible for his fans' actions, even if it is his fans' doing. I hear this argument from people that wish to turn the course of an argument against somebody. Some person on the internet says something and they blame the YouTuber for it. Myself and most YouTubers take great pains to not weaponize our audiences in that manner because we know firsthand how difficult it can be to deal with 20 or 50 or 100 vitriolic people online. Increase that number to a few thousand and it's difficult for any human being to cope with that sort of thing. But frankly, humans simply aren't built to handle that level of abuse. The thing is, we do not make calls to action, either directly or indirectly, for specifically that reason. If we did, then absolutely we'd be responsible for that call to action, but that's not the case. Neither of us condone such behavior, nor do we seek it out or wish it on other people. To hold us accountable for the actions of others is to completely discount free will on the part of those conducting themselves in a deplorable manner. Now, I refuse to be held accountable for the actions of another thinking human being aside from my underage daughter. I did not direct people to do such things, I did not ask them to, and I condemn any who do, as does BigfryTV. It is not his responsibility, period. Continuing on. If you condone this sort of behavior on your comments section, you're opening the door for your followers to do things like this. Comments on his YouTube site, comments such as, "These two things I cannot verbalize because of the YouTube algorithm," and even more vile spew should not be tolerated. The fact that he allows these comments means he's responsible for them and should be held accountable. Just look at his recent video. That should show the amount of hate he is allowing on his channel to fester. Which, again, BigfryTV is not responsible for the actions of others. They have free will. They choose to exercise it. It is not anyone's responsibility to be the thought police. Matt Norman continues on to blame BigfryTV for literally everything. Refreshingly enough, my name is left out of this one. Because of BigfryTV, developers left, moderators left, investors left, I place the blame solely on this person and his toxic fans. The fact he's also allowing people to put down mental illness, YouTube algorithm banned word, family, and allowing his fans to attack another person is insane. He's now claiming he has information from other people who have written to me personally. These discussions and his so-called sources are made up. Screenshots of conversations I've had with certain people have been heavily photoshopped to suit his vendetta, yet his fans lap it up as truth. This is what I'm having to deal with. He has gone out of his way to allow strangers to make accusations that are false and misleading and putting them on YouTube as factual without any proof of their validity. I refuse to play these games anymore. Now, both BigfryTV and myself have confirmed with the developers that left that they did so without coercion and without any conversation with BigfryTV or anyone else. As we've already covered in this video, those developers instead left because of Matt Norman's vitriolic behavior and they're not wanting to be associated with such a complete embarrassment of an individual. The investors? Well, likely the same reason. Moderators? Yeah, they left because of Matt Norman's actions, not the actions of supposed fans of BigFry, and not because of BigFry himself. Now, he finishes, "Therefore, Police 1013 is closed. At the moment, I'm looking to hand over the entire game to someone who I see could finish what I started. In time, you may see the game appear again, but for now, I can't continue with this kind of abuse. I should also mention that if I hand over this game to another developer studio, that one of the conditions will be to honor the backers of Project Blue Line." And that, apparently, was that. At least for a grand total of a whole 24-hour time span where Matt Norman apparently completely reversed his decision. The very next day, Matt Norman posted the following announcement on Facebook. "A lot can happen in a short period. Because of the amazing support I have received from this awesome community, I've decided that I will continue to develop the game and at the same time start speaking with studios to join forces. I ask that you be patient during this time so that I can do things in a more positive way. First thing will be to completely get off social media, except Facebook, so that I can concentrate on all the positives and hit the refresh button. That way I'm at least moving forward on the game and speaking to other companies to attach to the game. I know how you all feel about this game and I've been humbled by the amazing support you've shown me and my family as well as the dream of this game becoming a reality. So thank you. I will keep you updated semi-regularly when I have news or things you should see. Thanks again everyone for the amazing support. P.S. Police 1013 will have a no troll policy. The only criticism we'll listen to from this point on will be when we ask for it. I hope that makes sense." And that reset and the PS bit are the main interesting points. Now, along with that, Matt Norman completely deleted the Police 1013 Discord server and created a new one, along with deleting every single video on his Wingman Games YouTube channel. And with the Discord server, he only allowed in people that he deemed to not be trolls, which Matt Norman's definition of troll equals anyone who ever says or even so much as asks a question about the game that isn't one that strokes Matt's ego or remains completely positive and supportive of the game's development. And no, I'm not being hyperbolic there. Matt Norman is setting out to continue forward, accepting no criticism except the kind that he wants, which is a terrible idea for about 500 different reasons, most notably of which would be the issue of operating in a vacuum. And also, within that tirade, Matt Norman blamed BigfryTV for people he labeled as Big Fry's fans, stating he should be responsible for their actions when he never weaponized his viewers and in fact has taken pains to directly avoid doing just that. Well, let's have a bit of a listen to Matt Norman himself weaponizing his followers doing exactly what he accuses others of doing.
And that's a really good question, and thanks very much. My problem is I haven't social media. Like when I start typing, I can't stop. It's like an addiction to me. Like when people put me down, I just want to tell them to fuck. But at the end of the look, it makes me look good and all that sort of thing. So if you think it's bullshit, you go and comment. I mean, that's the best thing that can happen. I'm fighting all the fights. If you guys believe in it, then you can fight them for us. I've got to stay out of stuff from now on.
Then there is this Discord image where Matt Norman literally states, "Nasty people thrive on drama and love to do anything with it to kick you while you're down. Sad world we live in." Meanwhile, Matt Norman goes to BigfryTV's YouTube channel on a video completely unrelated to Police 1013 and posts the following. Was this meant to be taken seriously as a review? You played a simulator game like a 3-year-old plays Grand Theft Auto and you spoke like a 3-year-old all the way through it? Way to go. The fact you think people would find it funny that you just wanted to run over people, kill people, etc. tells me the audience you're trying to attract. Yes, as Matt Norman himself said, it is indeed a sad world we live in where it has nasty people that thrive on drama and love to do anything with it to kick you while you're down. And in addition to Matt Norman being vitriolic and blaming anyone and everyone for his own shortcomings, he has resorted to the age-old dirty devs tradition of threatening to harm a YouTuber's channel. DueRag, one of the other YouTubers that has been covering the issue with Police 1013 and doing an excellent job of it too, I might add, received an email from Matt Norman requiring DueRag to delete his video from his channel or else he would report DueRag to YouTube for harassment and cyberbullying. Shortly after, BigfryTV received a similar email requiring him to delete his now 5 videos discussing the, what is still a continuing to develop story surrounding Matt Norman's insane behavior online, with threats of being reported for harassment and cyberbullying again. And this is actually a dangerous thing. As some of you may recall, I went through a similar issue with the psychopath that was Andrew Watt, where he consistently filed defamation complaints and privacy complaints on each and every one of my videos. On one of those videos, the privacy complaint was upheld by YouTube, making the video invisible to anyone living within the European Union. The reason that privacy complaint was upheld? Because one person at YouTube decided that referring to Andrew Watt by the same name as his Steam developer account and by his Twitter account was somehow disclosing private information. That video remained in that state for 3 months while I actively fought YouTube every single day on it. It wasn't until I enlisted the aid of a trusted flagger that the decision was ultimately overturned, and like a gate was being lifted out of the way of an enraged tiger, I immediately leapt on the offensive and lambasted Andrew Watt for the scum that he truly was. BigfryTV, of course, responded to that email about as I probably would have by stating, "Hello, Matt. I'm not sure what is prompting this at this point in time, as I assumed you were ceasing use of all social media, but alas, here we are. I won't be removing any videos from my channel and have passed this along to not only my YouTube reps, but my lawyer as well. I won't be backing down from any threats, nor will I be manipulated into taking down videos that document events and showcase evidence of your wrongdoings, malicious intents, and manipulation of the facts. I would strongly advise you to reconsider this action. This doesn't have to be the next step. Like I advised you before, focus on your project and only good things can happen because of it. This isn't the right path." And of course, Matt Norman responded about as well as one might expect under such circumstances before following up with his own official reply that reads, "Well, unfortunately, threatening to divulge private and confidential information to the public after I have made it very clear in the disclaimer below giving you no permission to use this information or allow it to be sent to a third party would actually cause you a lot more harm than good. I also made it very clear in my first correspondence. You definitely need to get legal advice before doing something stupid. I have asked you to take these videos down. You have threatened to use private and confidential company information without my consent. Please send me your lawyer's details, and I shall correspond with them from this point on whilst you learn the legal requirements when speaking with the director of a company in private correspondence. I look forward to receiving your lawyer's details, and I will move forward with your breach of YouTube harassment and bullying policy. Have a great day. And naturally, there is a decent amount to unpack here. First, legal requirements when speaking with the director of a company in private correspondence. There are no such legal requirements. Get fucked. A second, the supposed private and confidential information. That involves the developer that supposedly violated their non-disclosure agreement and the perceptions behind that. Now, in regards to that information, BigfryTV, DueRag, and myself are not in any legal danger here. The reason being is because none of us signed any form of agreement with Matt Norman at all, and there was no verbal agreement either. Any breach of NDA is a contract violation and must be taken up with the former employee. However, if Matt Norman bothered to check his records, according to that developer, no non-disclosure agreement was actually signed, and Matt Norman never bothered to care enough about the goings-on within his company to ever verify this. That means that no repercussions will end up befalling the developer. Also, we are reporting on this issue and providing critical commentary on it. I would suggest Matt Norman study the law in that regard because he has no legal leg to stand on. Now, for the next part, just because you slap a disclaimer on something and claim it is confidential does not make it confidential. Confidentiality is an agreement and is not unilateral in nature. AchenkusLaw.com has the following to say on that matter. Confidentiality obligations generally arise via contract, such as by signing a non-disclosure agreement. Contracts, as you likely know, require both parties to agree, what the law calls a meeting of the minds. Dropping a standard confidentiality disclaimer at the bottom of every company email doesn't unilaterally impose on a recipient of an email a duty of confidentiality. It does not unilaterally bind the recipient to an agreement regarding the email footer language, since you can't unilaterally impose an obligation of confidentiality on someone. If they aren't already obligated to keep the information you share with them confidential, e.g. due to having signed a non-disclosure agreement NDA or for some other reason, your email disclaimer isn't going to change that. The recipient is free to do what they want with your email. In other words, email footers assert that a reader has consented to a contract based on mere receipt of the message. This is problematic because, as with any legally binding contract, both parties must agree to its terms. Simply opening or reading a message is not the same as approving what is inside. For this reason, typically email confidentiality warnings carry no legal weight. And also in regards to BigfryTV's not obtaining consent from Matt Norman due to the international treaties signed by Australia, the UK, Canada, the United States, and about 50 or other countries, single-party consent is all that is required unless the person recording or divulging the information resides in a country that requires two-party consent. Canada is a single-party consent country. He needs no one's permission to divulge the contents of communications that he is a part of. Also, as we all have obtained permission from the people providing us with this information, the single-party consent requirement is fulfilled. Again, Matt Norman is more than welcome to sue, but he will lose and lose badly. If I were BigfryTV, I would happily move forward with my lawyer's contact information. Best of luck to him. And while Matt Norman has been busy threatening legal action in order to attempt to silence content creators, threatening to abuse the YouTube complaint system in order to silence valid critique of his actions, and being exceptionally verbally abusive all over the internet, he sent me an email as well, but this one was a bit different than what the others were receiving. That email reads as follows. Hi Sid, Matt here. I wanted to ask you not to make a video. I've had mental health issues over the past few weeks and have dealt with a lot of attacks that caused me to close shop. I have taken down all social media posts in relation to that breakdown and in fact closed all possible ways of being attacked in the future. I've decided to close down any crowdfunding and will now concentrate on making the game off my own steam. My family and I have really suffered with this breakdown, and I'd like to ask you not to make it worse. I know you'll be thinking, why should I? And all I can say to that is that I know you know how these things can destroy you. If you could do this for the sake of me and my family and just wait and see what transpires, it is hard to ask you for this, but I feel you'd listen for the sake of not harming someone when they're down. I'd like to keep this correspondence private and confidential and ask you to just let it go for now. I need to get better, and I need you to at least understand that I'm a good person, and I'm thinking solely of those that believed in me from the start. In the meantime, I wish you well and hope that you can dig deep and give me a chance to redeem myself. Thanks for your time. Well, Matt, I have waited. and I've seen what has transpired, and as a result, I am left with one singular impression, that I am greatly disappointed and disgusted by what I've seen. I left off with Matt Norman with an impression that he would change his ways, that for the sake of his health, for the sake of his family, for the sake of his game, that he would stop doing exactly what he has been doing these past several months. Actions that fill my throat with bile as I've seen them escalate these past few weeks. Matt Norman viciously attacks and harasses anyone who is critical of him and his game. He lies about every interaction that I have ever seen. He then misrepresents that information to the public and attempts to garner pity from his blind followers that either refuse to or are simply incapable of discerning his true nature. Matt Norman has done everything that I have ever seen from the list of dirty devs. I have seen the lies. I've seen the harassment. I've seen the legal threats both against YouTubers and against supposed fans of the game who offer up justifiable criticism. Always spouting off about defamation and slander and lies, meanwhile conducting himself in the exact manner he ascribes to others, only magnified several times over. His 15-minute-long pity party video was nothing more than one giant example of classic projection that any psychologist would sit down with a giant tub of popcorn and laugh their asses off over. It is despicable to see all of this happening, and there's just so much to take in. Accusing YouTubers of weaponizing their viewers while he weaponizes his own followers, lying about them and misrepresenting their statements while claiming that is what they are doing to him. This is why the Dirty Devs series exists. This is why I focus my channel on consumer advocacy, because people deserve to be warned. A game that has, despite assertions to the contrary, been in development since 2014. 5 years and over $120,000 later, and the only thing to show for it is a bunch of Unreal Engine asset packs clumsily slapped together with some textures and small object modifiers, just so Matt Norman could go to sleep at night and claim it's not an asset flip. A developer so insane and so vitriolic that he managed to drive away his potential investors and even managed to drive away his own development team multiple times. A developer so spiteful he's willing to sue merely to prevent the knowledge of his actions from seeing the light of day. And for who? For what? To be able to continue bilking blind sycophants so he can take vacations instead of creating the game that they all paid over $100,000 for in good faith. People like Matt Norman deserve to be canonized alongside the likes of Digital Homicide and Andrew Watt for his sheer spitefulness and his complete inept handling of his game, his developers, and his community. I am absolutely disgusted that I wasted so much of my time offering advice in the hopes of a positive outcome, only to have that man, for all intents and purposes, lie to my face and then have the temerity to beg me not to make a video on his actions due to his mental health, while he continued on to attempt to destroy not one but two YouTubers, one of whom I consider to be a friend. Honest and fair critique is not a violation of the law. It is an expression of it, and it is a vital requirement these days because for every Stardew Valley, for every Vox Machina, for every fantastic indie game out there, there are a dozen Matt Normans. There are 100 Project Blue Lines scamming people out of their hard-earned money, and an even greater number of indie games that people will pay for in good faith but will never see the light of day. Industry commentary on these developers and their actions are not only helpful, but are a necessity. The greatest disinfectant for lying developers like these is the light of day. It is a light that they continue to shy away from, and it is a light that Matt Norman is willing to go to war in a legal battle to attempt to avoid. Matt Norman wants to weaponize people? Fine. Let's do that, but let's do it right. Share this video. Talk about this issue on Twitter, on Facebook, on Reddit, on Discord. Don't attack people, don't send threats, but instead breed awareness and foster knowledge. Let everyone you know be aware to avoid Project Blue Line, Police 1013, and Matt Norman like the plague. Treat him like the next Digital Homicide because he is well on his way to becoming exactly that. You want a war, Matt? You want to sue someone? Come and get me. I'll be waiting. I noticed that you attempted to use that confidentiality thing in your email to me. Well, according to you, I violated it. And never forget this. In a year's time, Matt Norman will be but a distant memory for myself, DueRag, BZtheKing, and BigfryTV. But our names will forever be on your mind as the ones that showed the world who and what you truly are. Remember this and never forget. Ladies and gentlemen, I am SidAlpha, and I'll see you next time.